Salvete omnes. Welcome back to the AP Latin live stream. We're so excited that you could join us today on this very day. I'm Jenny Luongo. More about that later. I'm joined by my friend.
Hi, I'm Ben. Who are you again? We're going to learn more about that. Okay. You look fancy dressed up today. Is it something special going on?
Hodie, Ben. Hodie est dies natalis Romae.
Well, like this.
Yugapai!
There we go. Okay, fine. Yay.
Yes,
Felicem diem
yes.
natalem. Oh, Roma.
Yes, we won't sing. I've been on several Zooms lately where people have sung happy birthday and it just has not gone well.
It doesn't go well. Okay.
No,
Well, I
no.
mean, I don't think Rome can blow out all of its candles in one breath. So.
No, 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 no. It's quite a few, quite a few. So April 21st, 753 BC is when the Romans celebrated the founding of the city. So we're really excited to have you with us today to celebrate as well. And in honor of both Rome's birthday and also the Texas State JCL has been having a live stream, and they asked everybody to dress up in Roman garb. I'm wearing Gero Meam Stolam Hodie. Yeah. So
And
I'm
and I'm dressed up too. Garo hoodie hodie. How about that?
yes,
There
exactly,
you go.
exactly.
Okay.
You're pinulatus. You're wearing a pinula.
Okay, yeah,
As
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I know what you had in mind. I know what you had in mind.
You know, if we just sit here for the whole live stream, the little streamers will keep wiggling the whole time.
It's pretty exciting. I bet it's not as exciting to watch though as what we were going to do today. So we'll just move on to the AP Latin review that we were. Again, I'm Jenny Luongo from St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Austin, Texas. As I mentioned, I'm a sponsor of the Texas State JCL. So thinking about all the officers and JCL members today who didn't get to have a convention this year, but are celebrating Rome's birthday today, you can always tweet at us. My handle is at Parwa Luongo on Twitter.
Yeah, and I'm Ben Johnson. I'm from Maine, Hampden Academy, which is near Bangor. And you can tweet at me at Latin Tutorial. We aren't having our main JCL things yet, but I am a sponsor in the main JCL. And this actually is the first time that I've ever celebrated Rome's birthday during like anything educational, because we always have our April vacation during this week. So I'm
For us,
excited.
that's how the Ides of March go. So
Oh, well,
yeah, I
okay.
never get to do anything for the Ides of March.
So for warm up today, we had the bee simile from last section of the Aeneid. And this is the famous bee simile. Aeneas is coming upon Carthage, and he sees the building of the city of Carthage, and then Virgil compares it to the work that bees do. And so we had 6 questions to help you kind of investigate this a little bit. And as we go through, let's kind of like spend some time, because we didn't really talk about this in last live stream. So the qualis here introduces a simile. I mean, this is the bee simile. It's like the bee movie. I wonder if this is the bee simile, then does that make the order simile the A simile?
Oh, I mean, it is first.
It's true. Okay.
It is first. How convenient that the second simile was the bee simile. It's like
I
Virgil
think he
planned it.
planned it. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, he's sneaky that way.
It's that bilingual, modern,
Hmm.
ancient like foreshadowing. Yeah, he's super smart. He can see into the future. He has his books of necromancy.
Right.
Uh,
Well, I mean, we do use the Latin alphabet, so it's not as far-fetched maybe
True that.
as
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
good point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So we're talking about the work. This actually, he's not comparing the Carthaginians to bees. He's comparing the work that the Carthaginians are doing to the labor that bees do. So such is the work that exercet apes, that busies the bees, as I like to do it. Aestate nova, in the new summer, so in the beginning of the summer, per florea rura, through the flowery countryside, sub sole, under the sun. And then there are 4 tasks that the bees do after this. These are cum clauses here, but the cum isn't introducing a subjunctive, it's an indicative. So when they lead out or escort the young bees, the adultos fetus, and there's a lot of question about like this, how can you have adult offspring and stuff, and there's we've been talking about this section here. before the live stream and stuff. And apparently the Romans thought that bees reproduced by asexual reproduction, which means that they are formed as adults and stuff. It's very interesting. The Romans understood bees a lot, but then they also kind of like missed it completely too. Okay, so also they make honey, cum liquentia mella stipant. They press out liquid honey, and they stretch out their cells. They stuff their cells with sweet nectar, dulci nectare. And they also receive pollen. Those are the honora, the burdens of those coming in. So from bees coming back to the hive. And this is only lines 2 through 5. So you shouldn't really include anything about keeping drones out because that happens in line 6. But they do augmine facto in line 5. They do form a battle line, which isn't really a task, but it is something that they do. And that is an ablative absolute.
Yeah, I'm so glad you made the point about being careful about which line numbers you're taking your answer from, because they're only going to accept answers from the line numbers they've asked for. So
read the question, right?
Yeah, read the question, be really careful about that. All right, number 4, write out all of line 6 and mark the scansion. So you can see that Ben has very kindly written it out for you guys on our slide. And that line is spondy, spondy, dactyl, spondy, dactyl, spondy. And, nothing particularly tricky, no elisions to try to catch or anything like that. Number 5, in what historical war were the city walls Moinia mentioned in line 8 destroyed? And so these are the city walls of Carthage. And so they're asking you to know that this happened in the Punic Wars, and specifically in the Third Punic War, when the Romans took Carthage.
So question, like if a student just put down the Punic Wars or the Punic War, would that be acceptable, do you think?
I believe, and I didn't look at this part of the scoring guidelines when I was looking at them earlier, but I believe they took the Punic Wars. But if you put the second Punic War or the first Punic War, it got counted wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think that was right? I hope I'm answering correctly.
Yeah, I don't think that the Romans actually touched the city walls in the first or second one. So I mean, if you put more information and that information is wrong, then it's wrong, right?
Yeah, so it's important to put all correct information in giving your answers for sure. And then number 6, this is a question about book 12. Obviously, it's not on the syllabus for this year's 2020's exam, but we've been talking about how much we love the second half of the Aeneid, and it's just great to know about. So what Rutulian leader is compared to a lion? This is another great simile in book 12, and Turnus is the one that's compared to a lion there.
Yeah, the key I think in this is the word Rutulian or book 12, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's not like you shouldn't actually like try to think like, oh, I don't remember that simile, so I'm just gonna like throw a random name down. Like partly the simile about being compared to a line isn't necessarily the important question here. It's sometimes it's like playing Jeopardy where like they give too much information, but you don't quite know if that information is correct, but you know the general gist of what they're trying to get at. So
yeah, for sure. And that's a good skill to practice and use.
Oh, Jenny. Okay. To whom Jupiter gave the great gift to teach Latin, to give justice to all students, and to educate wild youths. I, in my misery, beg you to review with me these lines and prevent unspeakable miseducation from our viewers, to spare the loyal watchers and to look more closely at Latin. I do not come to butcher a Latin translation with iron, or to turn stolen answers back to our homework. There's not that force in my mind, and there's no great arrogance in a defeated teacher like myself. So there is an ancient language, though. The Romans call it Latin by name. Rumor has it it's from the name of its founder, Latinus, Mr. Latin. This language is powerful in its words and in the richness of its wisdom. Here is our course. Here is our review. So
Ben, you didn't need to say all of that great stuff. You had me at review. Let's finish reviewing book one.
Yes. Okay. So this is going to be our last day with book one for Virgil. We're going to wrap it up with a great little speech by Ilioneus, and then a reply, which we're going to touch upon from Dido, but we're going to spend more time with that, or you're going to spend more time with that at home on your own, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. This is the 522 to 578. Aeneas is in Carthage, but he's cloaked in a cloud. And it's one of those things like, what would people say about me if they didn't know that I was there, sort of things. And he's got to get a nice little pick-me-up sort of thing like that. Like at one point, Ilioneus is like, oh, if only Aeneas were here, something like that. And you would hope that Aeneas is like, I'm here, guys, I'm here. But he doesn't. that happens later. He's still hiding in his cloud, dissimulant. They remain hidden, and they don't really know what to do. He and Achates.
Yeah, they're spying out what's going to happen.
Right.
The speculantur.
So exam practice we've already done, and we're going to look at maybe the effectiveness of Ilioneus's speech.
All right, so you can find all the information that you need for today's lesson and your learning opportunity that Ben was alluding to at the bit.ly/AP Latin YouTube folder. Go ahead, take this moment to get out a way to record your thoughts and your answers to our questions, and maybe any notes, commentary, anything that you might have on this passage, so that you can help prep for the exam that's coming. All right, so we'll go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead to this speech of Ilioneus. He starts, "Oh, Regina," and Ben did a great job, I think, of kind of imitating the over-the-top nature of this speech.
That wasn't over the top. What are you talking
about? So yeah, Ilioneus starts with a lot of compliments in order to get what he wants. So we want you to look at that first part of the speech and figure out what words indicate that Ilioneus is complimenting Dido to get what he wants. Then he actually kind of has some audacity during this speech too. One of the things that he does is he uses imperatives, not the kind and gentle subjunctive, may you please do this thing for me. He uses 3 imperatives here. So look for those. Remember, imperatives look sometimes like infinitives with the RE cut off, unless they're deponent, then they're still going to have an RE, but that's unusual because deponent infinitives usually have an RI. So that's the imperative form. Then number 3, what 2 things does Ilioneus say they have not come to do? The Latin word for not is known, kids. So looking about 527 where he says known.
There could be a whole lot of things. I didn't come to go to the movies or
exactly.
But it's important for him to allay her concerns, right?
Right, exactly. And also we learn later in the speech that he feels like they haven't been treated as guests. So he's trying to let her know that they have not come to do some things. They haven't come to go to the movies, I feel certain. And then number 4, give one and only one reason why Ilioneus claims this. So there are a couple reasons in here, and we're going to talk about both of those. But as Ben was saying, it's important to read the question. And if they ask you for one and only one reason, then just give your best reason that you can come up with. All right, so go ahead.
So something from here, like this is great in the sense that Virgil gives us more information in a speech, and we can imagine the activity that's happening behind the scenes, but we only learn about it because Ilioneus says that they're doing certain things. And we also don't actually know like what Dido thinks of these Trojans and what any sort of leader would do. Like, so I mean, we just see Ilioneus coming in and all of this stuff. So everything's from Aeneas's perspective, and he's completely unaware, just like we are. But I can imagine that Dido or the Carthaginians on the borders just think that these are just a band of pirates, possibly.
Right.
Kind of roaming around, and everything is kind of colored by that. And then we know that there's been a battle or something because of the things that Ilioneus says, but not because we're actually informed this as in the narration and stuff. So I think that that's neat from Virgil's perspective. And like sometimes when you see things like that in just a regular book that you're reading too, that often shows the skill of the author and in being able to provide essential information that is important for the plot, but not by telling you, but kind of by referencing it. So
right, it's way more interesting for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure. All right, Plenty of thinking time. Okay, so he says, as I mentioned, "Oh, queen," and then he tells her that she's basically been chosen by a god, Jupiter. So he says, "To whom Jupiter gave a new city, Novum Urbem Condere, to found, and gave her the power to frenare, to restrain, to rein in gentes superbas, uh, proud peoples, justitia, with justice." So that sounds a lot to me, Ben, like the mission of Rome, to rein in proud peoples.
Uh, right, what was it? It's Parcere Subjectis and
Yeah,
Debellare Superbos.
superbos. Yeah,
Right, there we go.
exactly.
There's that Superbos. And Parque, right? Spare, right? Parcere.
Right, exactly, which
That
he's
word
gonna
might come up.
use. Yeah, exactly. He's gonna use that word too. So there's a lot of connections here to what Anchises tells Aeneas about the mission of Rome. So, so he butters her up with these great words about what her goal is, and then he says he calls them Troes miseri, we miserable Trojans, vecti, carried maromnia, through all the seas, ventis, by the winds. Oramaste, we beg you. And then he starts with these imperatives. He says, prohibe, keep away the infandos ignes, the unspeakable fires on navibus, from our ships. Parque, as Ben said, spare Pio Generi, the loyal race, the devoted race, which of course is the Trojans. They're led by Pius Aeneas. And he tells her to aspice, to look proprius more closely, res nostros, on our affairs, more carefully on our affairs. And then he says, non nos venimus, we haven't come either out, and there are two things, populare, to lay waste, libucos penates, to Libyan household gods, it says literally, but that's metonymy for their homes. Nor have they come to turn raptas praedas, stolen booty. That's my students' favorite word, so I had to say it for them. Ad litor, to other shores. They're not there to take the Libyans' stuff. And then he gives two reasons, but you were supposed to give one and only one in your answer, why he claims this. He says that non ea vis animo, that this strength is not in their spirit at this point, and there is not tanta superbia, there's not such arrogance, victis, in people who have been conquered, in conquered peoples.
Yeah, I think that wictis at the very end of the line is the stress in some sense. Like he
Yeah,
calls themselves defeated, like, and they definitely are. They're very humble. He's supposed to be very humble here, even though he uses those imperatives. Like, he calls himself conquered, defeated.
right. He's a little indignant, but he realizes the situation they're in, that they are not in a situation to threaten her.
Okay, so continuing on, I think we have like 4 slides of his speech, and so he goes on for quite some time, and he definitely has a nice structure to his speech where he starts off in the previous section, praises Dido, says like, please don't, or says don't do these things, then says we're here not to do things that you like, we're not pirates essentially, we're not people that are going to stay here, and we're not people who are intending to bring violence onto you. Now he needs to explain where they're going, and that they are refugees, for instance, people that don't have a home, and that they need to, at least, like, they're on their journey, and this is not where they intend to end up. So give one and only one detail that Ilioneus gives about their intended destination, and quote the Latin to prove your answer, and then give one and only one detail that he gives about the storm and its consequences. So he's going to refer to this storm in some ways as Nimbosus Orion, cloudy, stormy Orion, because Orion is a constellation. If you guys are in the northern hemisphere right now, like, you maybe know that Orion kind of rises and is around in the wintertime, and then it isn't around in the summertime. And if you think about the sailing season in the ancient world, it was from March to November, because starting in November, you get lots of storms in the Mediterranean. So that's what he's going to be talking about there. So do you think we can go on?
Yeah, I think so. There's that hemistitch that kind of divides our questions here. The hic cursus fuit here was our course. So hopefully that has helped them figure out what they need. So I bet
Yeah,
they're
and
ready.
a good reminder too that like that these half lines, hemistitches, as you called them, Virgil called them, or the ancient world called them props too, like little uh, scaffoldings, kind of, to help prop up the poem, because he wasn't quite ready. There's at least one example where he was doing a performance of the Aeneid, and he came across one of his half lines and was able to complete it on the spot because he got inspired on how to finish it. But some of these half lines are great as they are too, and so some people think that maybe some of these half lines are intentional. It definitely shows that most of these half lines definitely show that the work is unfinished. It's not that he didn't finish at the end of book 12. It's that he didn't finish with polishing it up and clearing out
Right.
all of or most of these half lines. So okay, so what does Ilioneus give about their intended destination? So I don't think that the Trojans fully know exactly where they're, especially once they leave Troy, they don't fully know exactly where they are headed, and they have little bits of information here and there. This is rather late, but he still doesn't necessarily have like full information. The Greeks call this land Hesperia. That's the first bit in the first line, and that means kind of a Western land. It's ancient. They get that terra antiqua, powerful in arms and the richness of its soil. So that might remind you a little bit about Carthage's description, maybe Rome's description from the early part of the Aeneid. These people called the Oenotrians colonized it originally, and it's called Italy from the name of their leader. The Oenotrians, I think, are in southern-ish Italy. So that's where they're headed. And those 4 lines up there are essentially like described in that question. Hic cursus fuit. Here was our course. Was fuit. When suddenly rising up with a rave Orion, drove us into hidden shallows. And that's the first thing there for the answer for number 2. In Wada Kaika Tulit. And it also scattered them through the waves with the south wind deeply roaring, and with the salt water kind of rising over them, superante salo. And then finally, the Trojans, or he uses we sailed to your shores, to here. We few, pauci, too. So
He doesn't know there are multi just waiting for him.
well,
All
there are
right.
12 ships. 12 ships. Ilioneus
Yeah.
has 12 ships, right? Aeneas has the other 7.
Yeah. He just I guess it's few in comparison with how many they should have. All right. So
But
Ilioneus.
it does help. Like, we're few, we're not many. Like, we're not here to like destroy your new
Right.
city, right?
Yeah. Calm down. We're okay. So here Ilioneus starts talking about maybe why he was saying some of those conciliatory things, and he gets a little frustrated. So number 1, we want you to give 2 phrases that indicate that Ilioneus is indignant or frustrated. Quote the Latin and translate it for us. And then you'll notice about line 545, he says, Rex erat Aeneas. So he's talking now about Rex Aeneas, their king Aeneas. So give one way that Ilioneus describes Aeneas in that section, quote the Latin for us, and translate.
Okay,
All right,
ready?
we can have a
Yeah.
little bit of awkward silence, but I bet they're ready. Okay, so you guys can always pause us and rewind and just kind of hold on to the answers. Although we didn't tell them, Ben, that we are playing a Kahoot today, so they may want to keep up. All right. So some of the things that Ilioneus says are frustrating, that indicate that he's frustrated. He says, "Quod hoc? What is this genus, race of people?" And then he says, Quae tam barbara, or what so barbaric, notice that word barbara, patria, what so barbaric country permitted, allows hunc morem, this custom. So he's obviously irritated, and then he tells us why. Prohibemur, we are kept hospitio harenai, from the hospitality, from like being able to land on the sand in Carthage. He says, Ciant, they threaten bella, wars, and wetant, they forbid us to stop consistere prima terra, at the edge of the shore. So he's frustrated that they're not able to land. And then he says, if you temnitus, like this is related to our word condemn, if you scorn genus humanum, the human race, he gets real worked up here, and mortal weapons, he says, but sperate, expect that the deos memores, that the gods are mindful of what's right and wrong. If you don't know what's right and wrong, deos memores. And then he starts talking about Aeneas. So he says, Rex erat nobis. We had a king named Aeneas. He was our king. And quo, than whom, than our king, nec alter, no other was justior, more just in his pietate, in his devotion, nor maior, nor greater in bello et armis, in weapons and war. So he has all sorts of nice things to say about Aeneas here. Aeneas is probably like, oh yeah.
That's me. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Ilioneus. I'll
Yeah,
give you a pay
thanks.
raise at the
Right.
next
Exactly. And
performance
then
evaluation.
he says some things like, if the fates servant are watching over Wirum the sky, if he's breathing air, if he
Oh,
is
there's a
not,
puffy, by the way.
yes,
That's
exactly, with that
Vitor
ablative,
aura aeterea.
aura,
Yeah.
yes. If he's not lying crudelibus umbris, in the cruel shadows ad hoc, at this point, non metus, right? We're not worried. There's no fear. But he says, may it not pain you, poiniteat, to have like kertase, to have struggled earlier in your duty, officio, like help us out. Aeneas will pay you back.
So the last bit for his speech here is he's going to ask Dido for some stuff, I guess. So we want you to think about the three things that he does request of Dido, quote the Latin and translate. And then there are two options, one, and they both revolve around Aeneas. If Aeneas is alive, what are they going to do? If he's dead, what are they going to do? So find that Latin and translate it. And then also translate the last line, literally this line, that is about Dido. So we have another hemistich in 560, and then 561, Dido is going to speak. So that line can be a little complicated with this vultum de missa, but okay. So let's move on because we have a Kahoot.
Yeah, we got to move.
So he starts off here he's talking about Sicily. There are cities in Sicilian regions and weapons, and this Clarus Acestes, this famous guy named Acestes, and he's of Trojan descent. And so he says, let it be permitted, likeat, and that is a Joseph subjunctive. And the things that he's going to ask for from Dido are going to be these infinitives. First, he wants to beach their fleet, and their fleet is described as quassatam ventis, shaken by the winds. And also, he wants to shape, that's optare, planks in the forest. So what they really need to do is they need to repair their ships. So that they're going to use these planks to help fix their boats, and then to strip stringere, trees for oars. And so the trees kind of there is kind of understood in context, but they need to take trees and make oars out of them so that they can row away. And in some ways too, this is Ilioneus saying, like, we're not here to stay, like we really just are here because of this storm. Let us leave. And in order for us to leave, we need to repair our ships. And we're going to Sicily. Si datur. So Italiam, if it is given to tendere,
yes,
to
tendere.
head to Italy, when then with this ablative absolute, soci is et rege recepto, with our companions and our king recovered. So if we can find Aeneas and our missing ships, then we would happily go to Italy and Latium. So that's the first thing that they were going to do if Aeneas happens to be alive. But if that hope is removed, and he turns this, he addresses Aeneas. This is an apostrophe, which is when you address someone who's not there, but Aeneas is there, but Ilioneus doesn't know it. So it's confusing. It's complicated, guys.
Yes, exactly. But he intends
Uh,
it to be an apostrophe, but surprise.
right. Again, Aeneas has to feel really good about himself,
Yeah,
right?
he's listening.
Because Ilioneus calls him pater optime teucrum, the best dad of the Trojans, the greatest father. If the Sea of Libya, the Pontus Libyae, holds you, te habet, and the hope of Iulus doesn't remain anymore. And again, remember when Virgil likes to use Iulus, it's to talk about the futureness, the connection to the Julian clan and stuff. Let's see. We have the Straits of Sicily, at least, and the prepared seats. Oh yeah, let us go. Let us petamus. Let us seek Sicily and King Acestes from where we came. So that's our other option. Like, we're gonna go back to Sicily. We've got some family there. They'll be nice to us. Like, we're not gonna stay. And then we have our ending quotation marks with Talibus Ilioneus. He speaks with such things, and then all of the Trojans roar at the same time from their mouth, or with their mouth, or something like this. And this, by the way, was my JCL's quote last year.
It's a great. They're all cheering.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
So then
cheering.
this last line is going to introduce Dido's speech, which we won't get to today because it's your homework. So then briefly, Dido, her face cast down. So de missa vultum. De missa is a perfect passive participle, but it has a middle voice here, or an accusative of respect. And this is a Greek construction. So cast down with respect to her face, which is a very complex, convoluted way of saying this. So it's perfectly fine to translate this as like looking down, or her face cast down, or something like that. She profator, she speaks. That's a deponent verb.
All right, tempus est.
Ludamus Kahoot.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Kahoot up for them. And so we'll get our pin in just a second. There we go. Another long one, but maybe less complicated. I'll turn the sound down a little bit. That was kind of loud today. All right. So you guys can head to www.kahoot.it. And if you're wondering, what are we going to do on this Kahoot? Is it participles and infinitives again? No, not exactly. So today we're actually going to preview that passage that you're going to be working on for homework. The homework assignment is going to basically have you do an essay task. I don't think really need to write the whole essay, but you'll want to be able to translate this particular section. And so we're going to kind of preview the section for you. So the pin is quatuor nihil quinque, octo unus nihil nihil. And
bis
so
nihil. Bis nihil, right?
yeah. So you'll want to maybe make some notes for your homework, so that when you're doing your homework, which I think it's fine for them to do their homework with bullet points. What do you think, Ben?
I don't know. I mean, are they writing incomplete sentences in these bullet points?
Okay, bulleted complete sentences.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah,
How's that?
might not accept it otherwise. Gonna hand it back for revisions.
Well, we've been so nice. We've given them all hundreds on everything so far. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you aren't in, don't worry. You can still get in at kahoot.it, and the pin is going to be at the bottom of the page. But so we're going to have you translate some sentences. So one of the first things Dido tells them, and you can see the text on your screen, is that res dura et regni novitas me talia cogunt moliri. So we've got some options for translating, and my students always like to figure out like what the key is if it's multiple choice to the translation. And I think the key here is recognizing res dura et regni novitas. because all the translations end in force me to do such things.
So when you say key, like the thing that like the person who made the question is trying to figure out whether you know, is that right?
Right, exactly. So do you recognize the grammar? Do you understand what's going on with res dura? Is it singular? Is it plural? Regni, novitas, what case are they? How is that working? So hopefully we're doing pretty well. All right, so most people got the correct answer. Very well done. Res dura is singular. You can tell that from the dura, even though race is ambiguous. So harsh necessity, I translated it, but you know, it could be something else. And the novitas, that's a nominative. We've been talking about nominatives that don't look like nominatives. Here's one that ends in tas. So the newness regni, of my kingdom, that's a genitive. So that's what forced me to do these things. So Dido's response to Ilioneus is, hey, dude, you know, it's not you. Res dura et regni novitas are why I'm doing this stuff. All right, it looks like we've got adorable
dingo. Yeah.
Right on top today. All right. So another translation. Quis genus Aeneidum nesciat. So what is Dido saying in these particular words that I kind of excerpted from line 565?
I think maybe a key might be nesciat.
Yeah, I think nesciat is important.
Aeneidum.
And
Aeneidum. Yeah.
yeah, and then also kind of understanding genus. Let's say all four words are keys here.
As long as you know everything, you're all set.
Right, exactly. All right. Okay, so this one was a challenge. So a lot of people picked oh, you know what? This was a challenge because they picked the right answer.
They did, yeah.
And I had the wrong thing checked. You guys, I can't believe this is the first time this has happened because I do it in class all the time. The 14 of you who picked who might not know about the race of the people of Aeneas, that's correct. And before I post this for you to replay, I'm going to fix that. So good job, everybody.
Right. I picked yellow.
Okay,
yellow, so.
good job. Sorry about your points. I know. Vita, I tell my students all the time, vita est dura.
Please tweet at Parwa Luongo.
Exactly. That was all my fault. Okay, so lines 569 through 70, it may be a challenge for you to see. So I'm going to read them to you and you're going to pick the verb. So su vos hisperiam magnam Saturnia quarua. Si vericus finis regem quoptatis acestem. All right, so you're looking to see which of these you think is the verb here. Is it regem, optatis, vos, or finis?
I think we're looking for a second person, right?
Yeah, so second person verbs often throw my students off. I don't know about yours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my students, whenever there's a second person verb, they have a lot of trouble finding the verb. Oh, but these people are on it.
Actually, we got that one wrong. It's supposed to be blue.
No, don't say that. Now they're like, I can't even trust these people. Okay, so you guys, optatis is the answer, and she's basically saying, you know, whether you want to continue on or not, everything will be fine. And we'll look at the passage again in that next thing. So, yeah, second person verbs always a little bit problematic for my students. So she's told them, you know, whether you are hoping for Magnum Hesperium, great Italy and the Saturnian fields, or whether you're going to find, whether you're looking for Regem Acestem, King Acestes, she says that she's going to dimitam. She says, I will send you away. And so what are some of, or how does Dido say she's going to send them away? What are some things that she says here?
I'm struggling here between trying to decide between two of these.
Well, one of the things you can do on Kahoot is to mark 2 answers correct.
Oh, so if you can narrow down to 2, then just
Maybe
pick one of
just
them.
pick one, because
Yeah.
I do think that this one has 2 correct answers. If you're struggling, pick one of the correct answers. Oh, and look at that. Most of them got one or the other. So she says, Dimittam tutos, I'll send you away safe, auxilio, with help. So she's, being a gem, right? All right. So continuing on, the next word after I will send you away safe with help, and I will help you with my resources. She says Woltis. And so what does Woltis mean? And again, I feel like because it ends in an S, Ben, again, we're asking them about whether it's a noun or a second person verb. You may notice from the choices.
Or a participle. It could be like an ablative participle.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes those TIS endings.
I think I know this.
I hope so. I hope so. Although I didn't know the answer to one of them, and I wrote the questions, so.
This could be spelled, sometimes there's an alternate form of Woltis, VOL, and often VUs and VOs are alternate spellings.
Oh, good. So most of them realized that Woltis is present tense, and it is one of those second person verbs.
Wolt, right?
Yep, exactly. So she says, do you want, she's offering, do you want considere to settle mecum with me, his regnis, in these kingdoms? So she's a very welcoming host, even though he has been fussing at her for not offering hospitality. All right. So now we're going to look at the next sentence at the word statuo. And so again, we're asking, is statuo a verb, or is it a noun form, or is it a participle form? So the sentence is urbem quam statuo vestrast subducite navis, which in some texts would be written naves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I catch those, sometimes I don't. All right, a couple more seconds. Oh, good. So most people realize that statuo is a verb here. She's talking about the city, urbem quam statuo, which I establish. And she basically says, it's yours. You're welcome to stay with me in it. And then she also talks about Aeneas. She says, utinam ad foret Aeneas. Everyone's talking about this guy. So she says, adque, and utinam ad foret Aeneas. So is she meaning, I wish that Aeneas were present? For Aeneas will be present. Would that Aeneas would speak, or so that Aeneas would be here? What does that utinam indicate is one question to think about.
I think she should be careful what she's hoping for.
Yeah, I know. Have you noticed that she was Lyta in that simile yesterday, and the Trojans are Lytae right now? So,
and then when Aeneas shows up, then people aren't so Lytae.
I know. Things are going to go downhill. All right, so we're still working on this translation with utinam. Almost out of time for it. All right, and that's it. So I wish that Aeneas were here. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. So utinam with the subjunctive is going to indicate an optative. It's going to indicate a wish. All right, last one.
We had a change in the leaders.
Oh, did we?
Wise Otter
exciting.
is showing their,
very
showing
exciting.
Their name. Okay.
Okay, so now you're translating libui lustrar extrema eubebo. So she says, I wish that King Aeneas himself were here, driven by eodem noto, by the same wind. And then she says, equidem, indeed, dimittam certos, I will send certain men per litor through the shores et, and here's where we get to this section.
I think eubebo, right? Eubebo's it's if you know what eubebo means.
Exactly. I think I might cut them off early on this one just because we're running out of time. You think we can cut them off at 15?
Well, I think if we have 15 answers by 15, okay.
Okay, I'm going to do it at 10. All right, here we go.
Okay.
All right,
Oh, there
sorry,
we
you
go.
guys, I cut off. We just got to go. So I will order them, Eubebo, to survey lustrare, the farthest parts of Libya. All right, I don't think we have time for the podium today. I'm going to stop sharing, but
Right.
you know who you are. You know who you are. Don't worry, and we'll look back.
Maybe it will be pleasing for you guys to remember.
Yes,
this.
for sonnet Heikel and say Wabit.
Okay, so maybe something to think about when you think about speeches and all of this stuff here. Like we know how Dido responds, or we know how Virgil has Dido respond. Maybe put Ilioneus in different situations, and maybe see how this would sway other leaders that we read about in the syllabus. So Priam, how would he do in book 2? Latinus, if you read 7 through 12. What about Aeneas? What if the tables were turned here and Ilioneus were speaking about if you were like Dido's messenger or something like that? Like how would Aeneas respond? What about Caesar? We've seen situations where messengers have been sent to Caesar. What would he do, and how maybe would he use the situation for his advantage? Ariovistus, who is the German leader at the end of Book 1 of Caesar's Gallic War, he also has some interesting leadership qualities and stuff. So maybe read kind of towards the end of that book and think about how he would respond, or Ambiorix, if you've read Book 5 and Book 6 of the Gallic War. He's also kind of an interesting guy with very strategic thinking from his part. So always good to play these sorts of games. Helps with your critical thinking skill. So for homework, this is an essay. We expect 5 pages out of this. Please email them to Jenny at Luongo. No, instead, just kind of look through these passages and analyze how both Caesar and Dido reveal their leadership styles in their responses. So you might want to look through and list out, we were talking earlier, but list out what actually is going on in these passages, and that's good enough. Understand the content and how that relates to their leadership styles.
All right, so you can find that assignment in our AP Latin YouTube folder. Also, if you have questions for us, you can leave us feedback on this Padlet or tweet to us at Parwa Luongo or at Latin Tutorial. And don't forget, I think by the end of the week, if you need internet or any sort of device, you need to go and fill out the form at cb.org/tech. Thank you guys so much. Felicem Natalem Diem Roma, and we will see you tomorrow. Walete omnes.
Walete.